So this is session 107. Who remembers session 106?
Well, we were in the Southern Sages realm, and there were something like falling stars, like stars were starting to fall, and uh, the air got like so. Clave set up his Clave had his compound, his illusory compound that he put together, and it was good enough to hold against the stars, but at some point, like the pressure, like the gravity started increasing, and it was getting harder and harder to walk. And there was like this danger of the compound just collapsing. I think part of it did. Um, so we
Yeah,
managed.
it was under a dome, and the dome was under pressure, but being a dome, relatively well for a while. But Clay created a tunnel to get you out from under the dome.
Yeah,
And it was when you were in the tunnel that the dome finally cracked and collapsed.
gotcha.
And then when you came out, you saw that all of the trees were sort of being pressed flat. And something weird was going on with the sun and four other planets in the sky.
Yeah, like the moon broke apart, or we,
One of them did,
yeah, one of the moons. Um,
and was raining down like ash.
yeah, that was the falling stars that we learned of, or that we were experiencing. We made it a little bit. We left the tunnel, and we tried to make it as far as we could, and then we were. I think we ended up just talking to the Southern Sage. He visited us, or was communicating with us, from his lair, and he told us that his realm was being attacked, um, because there was something that changed in the mundane world, um, and there was like a large firestorm in northeastern Onlaith, and it's just like it's starting to engulf the land, and it was we call it like the molten sands. So like the deserts just, yeah, I just picture like kind of almost like quicksand, but it's just like boiling hot. Um, he
Yeah,
he said he could.
you have definitely seen part of it now, and it definitely is lava. Like where you are, there is a thin sheet of molten glass over top of it. But underneath the glass, you can see there clearly is just roiling lava.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, yeah, then he gave us the option, he said he could send us anywhere. We had to get out. He could use the last bit of his power to get us out, and we just had to tell him where to go. So that cued analysis paralysis as we then try to figure out where we can use this one shot to go that we might not be able to go to,
Right.
again, whether it was to go to the colony, or the entrance to the great colony, so that we could uh, or uh, find the other changelings, and by extension, I think Mordenkainen.
So
Um,
Mordenkainen is in a different place than the Great Colony, but he actually gave you sort of gave you two suggested options. One was to where the Dragonborn hatchery is currently hidden, as that was in some danger of being destroyed. The other is to the capital city of Onlaith of the Warmlands, which was Thebos, as there's 50 or 60,000 people there who could be killed if it was overrun by lava. And then but he could send you anywhere, so it was suggested that you still needed to get a key to get into this alternate plane where Dohat Pajar is.
Yeah,
And the most likely, the easiest place to find a key would have been the Great Colony, because there are a lot of them there.
yeah. And it was either that or going to Mordenkainen.
Right, because Mordenkainen, who invented the keys and brought the changelings there, also certainly has keys.
Yeah. So we decided to go to the Great Colony, and we were transported. We were transported onto an island that's surrounded by the molten lava, and uh, we saw some changelings, that turned out to be, they looked like they were in trouble. So I think Clave went to go help them immediately. Then we were kind of making our way down to them. They turned out to be cultists, who were they were either complicit or happy that the Pasha of Ifrix was released. Um, so uh, there was a little, yeah, so some conflict there.
They followers of Thurisdan or something? Had something to do with Thurisdan?
Right, so there is a tribe of changelings who currently occupy the Great Colony, and Thurisdan seems to be their principal god. So they released the Pasha of Ifrix for whatever reason, and now apparently, at least the Southern Sage suggested that the Pasha was probably going to find Mordenkainen to try to get the Wand of Eternity's doorstep from him, as Ifrix himself has an interest in finding Thurisdan. So this was all positive development for the changelings. Maybe not the lava per se, not for this group of changelings, but whatever chaos ensues from releasing the Pasha of Ifrix is probably in the best interest of their cult.
Yeah.
And literature was handed out, and like the chief tenets of their hoped for afterlife were explained, because Clave convinced them that you are all changelings too.
Yep. Yeah, we're like defunct changelings because we can't change our form. And
Well, no, he actually cast seeming on you all, so that if they had asked for you to change form, he would have been able to make it look like you were changing form.
oh,
That
it
didn't
was
come up, but he was ready to prove to them that you were changelings. The what he said was that you weren't telepathic changelings,
that was it. Yeah, that was
whereas
conformity.
yeah, right, he is, and they all are, but not all changelings are telepathic. They just basically treated you like you were, changelings, but slow.
Yeah.
Servants
Right.
Yeah.
for spats.
So they then Clave then got the guy to give him a good enough description so that you could contact another changeling who could fly out to their aid and who had a key. A couple days later, after living in the air-conditioned mansion, and most of the changelings you found had died at that point from their previously suffered wounds, some of them just from dehydration and hunger. This other changeling arrived, and he did have a key on him and was able to, atop this mesa, walk everybody through a particular path that led you into this alternate dimension where the Great Colony and presumably Dohat Bajar exist. And at that point, you actually could see the Great Colony, which is, from your perspectives, all pretty alien. I mean, from you as players' perspective, it looks like a bunch of crystal skyscrapers in the distance that are surrounded by some field of force. But your characters would have never seen anything quite like it. Then he cast mass suggestion on the guy and asked him if there was anything to be concerned about if you approach the Great Colony. And the guy didn't think there was, because you're all, as far as he knows, you are all prospective future cultists who are interested in learning more about the cult.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, you'll be totally fine, you're normal, right?
Right, you're just new recruits.
All right.
So you are still atop a mesa, but below you, there's no longer any lava or the sea of glass below you. You see what looks like normal sand. It looks maybe a little off-colored because the sky in this world is a little more violet than blue. But other than the strange coloration, which is clearly just coming off the sky, sand looks perfectly normal. There's not an easy and obvious way to climb down, but over time, eventually everybody, even the 4 remaining weakened tieflings, are able to make it down to the sand and start to begin to walk across in the direction of the city. The city's still a pretty good distance away, like several miles, but it will only take a couple of hours. The air here is warm, but not exactly hot, so it won't be such a struggle to make it across.
Okay.
That said, I don't know if you were going to go all the way with him to the city or clock him to take his key or what your plan was. So you tell me.
Well, I already got his key.
Oh, okay. I
He
forgot
handed it
that
to
then.
me.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we
Oh,
had.
okay.
had
Then let's
Windfall,
pick it
right?
up there, because that's where he would have said, like, he handed it to, I do remember now, he handed it to you thinking, oh, sure, here you go. And then he was like, I'm gonna need that back.
Yeah.
And as he says that, I say, T-hole, do your thing.
What's
What is my thing?
Punch him.
So remind me, there's these 4 tieflings, like
Sorry, I may have said
Changelings.
changelings.
changelings. They're like injured.
So yeah, there are actually 5 now. There's the one who flew in from Dharma Shah, who
Yeah.
he just handed over the key. He's
Yeah,
not injured.
The other
And then there's the others are pretty beaten up, and look ready to pass out.
okay.
Yeah, and you could tell from like the way that Clave says it, only attack the one that had the key. Like that's kind of, and he'll psychically, he can just clarify that as well. And then Clave will also say, telepathically, the other ones are a threat, but we need to take this guy out.
It is time to rest. And T-hole is going to grow his arms. So you see the silvery arms just kind of crawl out, and then he's gonna punch him and try to do a stunning strike. That's 3 points.
Roll to hit. Uh, he is surprised, I would say, by this, as he was not expecting it. Even after hearing punch him, he was like, "What?
What?
What are you talking about?"
Not only that, he gets
Yes.
punched from over there, like with reach. What the fuck?
So yeah, the first one, maybe because T-Hole was also surprised, the first one missed. But the second one hit, and the changeling is like, "Ow! What did you do that for?"
I'm gonna do a stunning strike. Attempt a stunning strike with that one. I did that with the first one, or I guess I would have.
Didn't hit.
It
Didn't hit, so
So yeah.
He failed. He's stunned.
so he didn't actually say what was that for. He's like, oh, what?
Yeah, and then I'll use my bonus action to see, I think it's two extra hits.
Those both hit. So he's stunned. Is anybody else doing anything? He doesn't get to go yet.
What do the others look like? What are they doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. They seeing this are very surprised and begin scrambling away. You're still atop the mesa, but they are sort of slowly stumbling as they scatter.
And Clave would shout, do not run, or else. He's trying to be scarier than he actually feels. He doesn't actually want to hurt these people, but he doesn't want them running away and like telling anybody what happened.
Just this one fucking guy will want to hurt it, apparently.
So yeah, give me an intimidation check with advantage. Yeah, they are still slowly. Unless you're,
yeah, I'll use an action point for that.
Well, there you go. So they, all of them sort of fall over and are kind of like on the ground prone at this point, but they've stopped moving and are warily looking back. Meanwhile, the changeling who just got punched several times is just like,
Is this guy so the four changelings are followers of Thurisdan, and this guy is also?
This guy kind of showed up later, you assume, because he's from the same group, basically.
I'm gonna walk over to where the four changelings are coming down.
Right, they have sort of scattered. They're not necessarily in one place. You could approach like two of them, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not super far apart, but like they might be 15 feet apart from one another.
I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go up to I'm gonna try to help one of them up and tell them. So what happens when you cross Thurisdan?
Really confuse them.
So yeah, give me a deception check with advantage. He crossed Thurisdan.
Yep.
You help this person to his feet, and he sort of narrows his eyes and looks at this other changeling. Reaches inside his vest, pulls out a dagger, and begins to approach him.
Well, the one that they're fighting?
Yes, the stunned one.
Okay, good. Okay, yes. There we go.
And he sort of weakly tries to stab him with disadvantage. He doesn't manage to stab himself. But even stunned, this guy is too weak to effectively stab. And the other ones are all getting to their feet and begin to like march in on the stunned one.
What's the weather like?
The sky is clear. It's not hot. You don't see much in the way of clouds. There are occasional wispy clouds in the distance. But it's completely different. Like in the mundane world where you're from, everything was overcast by that storm.
Right.
There was a literal firestorm going on in the clouds above you, and here it's clear skies.
And like decent weather, like just hot, warm.
It's hot, but not as hot as you would expect from a desert this time of year. It's 80, 85 degrees in that range.
Got it.
So the 4 weekend changelings, unless somebody starts to stop them, they're just going to murder this guy who they believe has defied the will of Thurisdan.
Excellent.
D-hole sees this and he's watching this murder rampage.
Yeah.
And
After the stun wears off, you hear the guy yelling, "What did I do? What did I do? I just came here to help you guys." One of the stunned ones is like, "Apparently Thurisdan didn't want you to help us," as he stabs him in the stomach several times.
So I don't know what my gang is doing after once that starts. I guess
I don't think I mentioned in the summary, but also last session Zarius contacted Sorteacon at the hatchery and
Right.
basically commanded her to save as many of the eggs as she could.
Yeah, gather all the people she can to help
Yeah.
and get them the fuck out of there. I did do that, yeah. I thought at the end I also had cast, because I thought we were just going to leave these people here and windwalk there. Because I'm pretty sure I used windwalk.
I don't remember Windwalk being used.
At least that was the intent. But if we're not doing that yet, I'll just ask, do we wish to darken the skies? Provide us some cover.
Yeah, why not?
Give me
As
10
long
minutes.
Oddly specific.
Yep, where'd I go? There we go. Yep. Okay, come on. I'm here. I'm fucking right here. Come on. Yeah. Hey, there we are. Okay. Then listen, I just wanted an excuse to cast the spell.
What the hell?
I want to control weather.
whoa, holy HTML.
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
in the
Okay.
chat, it did not come up very well.
I didn't know how to put that chart down. I can basically take some time to start adjusting the weather. I don't need to adjust the heat. We're good there.
So what is the goal?
I'm gonna get I'd like to get it very cloudy. Like just like you can hardly tell that it's daytime. Cloudy. If it's windy, so be it. It may come with a little bit of rain. I don't know if it ever rains here. We'll find out. Well, I mean, even if it doesn't, it's about to.
Just reading the spell, I'm not up on this particular spell.
Yeah, it's a bit up there, 8th level. But I have it for 8 hours too. So
So part of the reason why I asked what the plan was is, like I said, the city is still about like 10 miles out, and this is a 5-mile sphere. So if you wanted to
is it that far out? Okay, then I'll have to do it closer. I think it's centered on me, so as I
Right,
start to
that's-
move, it'll kind of trail behind me, I think. So if I begin the process of the shift, I guess let me double check. Within 5 miles of you for the duration.
So, you will look like almost like a storm front moving in from the standpoint of somebody who's in the Great Colony.
Right.
And with their giant crystal skyscrapers, a lot of people will see the storm front coming in.
Pretty cool.
We could be the clouds at the head of the storm front if I do the storm, or if I do cloud walk or whatever. Since that is not concentration.
Would
I mean,
would it be better to do that once we get inside the city?
Well, I think the idea was that we would use it to sort of mask our entrance a little bit.
I mean, if
It-
there's a
it-
large storm coming across the sands, like if anything, that heralds an entrance more than masks it.
And I mean, listen, some shit happened out there. Why wouldn't shit happen here? Right? Even if
so
they're the cause of it, maybe they don't realize it. Maybe there's repercussion.
is it wait, so what is the current condition? Is it clear, light clouds?
It's clear and warm.
So
Yeah, so I'll have to do at least, it's going to take some time for it to fully take effect.
Right.
I
And the
mean,
winds are calm.
in 5d4 times 10 minutes, we could get a full-on blizzard going in the desert. How dope would that be? In a desert that is not even on the same plane of existence.
Right, exactly. And then I can make it like a full-on storm too. Like it could be real bad. I'm rain dancing here. Nothing more appropriate than a lizard person fucking rain dancing, right?
I mean, at least, so what I'm trying to sort of interpret the intent of here, and it's not entirely clear to me, is it's clear that like the weather kind of changes a little bit slowly. But what happens if the weather is changing? Like basically, if you can create like blizzard conditions and you just stood here until you were standing in the middle of blizzard conditions, then you cast Windwalk and then you fly. Seems to me, just from the way this spell is worded, that it's not immediate blizzard centered on you that moves at 100 miles an hour, but rather you would fly to the end and then it would slowly spill out from where your new position is.
Maybe
Although
it
that
might be
would
better for us to get closer and then me do this.
Yeah.
Well,
Although I
What
can
do-
imagine the devastation if you could just have a blizzard that moves at 100 miles an hour and you just keep flying in circles to constantly hit people with this blizzard.
so we're looking at like a crystal city.
Yes,
distance? Okay.
underneath some sort of aura of force.
Right. So,
I mean,
and what are we going?
Go
What are
ahead,
we going
sorry.
in? We're going to the city to do what?
I don't remember what we need to do here.
we're going to the city to find Mordenkainen.
No,
right?
he wouldn't be
Or-
here.
No,
Mm.
no,
In a
we're
different
well,
place.
okay, so but
We
I
need
I
the
mean,
key,
I will say
right?
this, right? You needed the key. It's not
To get
actually
to where
clear to me you need to go into the Great Colony necessarily.
Yeah,
You might
Yeah, right,
find
but-
out what's going on there.
yeah. I
right,
would
I think
say
Wasn't
we
there
need
s-
we need to know more about this Pasha of Efreaks and it's like his like what's going on here? How did they free him? First of all, where is he? And then we can try to stop him.
wasn't there some
so.
Fucking
If
prophecy
yeah.
about a firestorm?
There was indeed a prophecy about the firestorm.
I mean,
there it
if
is.
we go into the
I mean,
city,
the prophecies are in the
I see it here now.
Journal.
I was just
Yeah.
trying to find it.
if we go into the city, and you said if it's closed, if it's if it's basically like closed off by some kind of force, and if we get stuck in there or need to make our escape, that's when you cast that spell, because it will be like in a snow globe, and you could just make torrential rain and flood the whole place.
Well,
mean,
but
I figured
control of
maybe the
weather
hail
doesn't
and-
work if you don't have a clear line to the sky.
Okay.
I figured maybe the hail and shit could bring down some of this glass.
Well, is it a force field or is it glass? It sounded
There-
like there was a field of energy that covered it.
Yeah, there's some sort of globe of energy that covers it,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's transparent, so you could see inside there are these crystal spires.
So yeah, it's transparent, so you could see. You might be able to do it. Who knows? But yeah, if we need to know the posh, we need to find out about Pasha of Efrix, then we should probably go into the city. I mean, we're all big buddies, big supporters of Thuristan, and we'll kill anybody who isn't. See, we proved it.
And Cleve, I just assumed that you had some sort of desire to see more of your people.
Yeah, it would be really cool. I want to get to know more about my heritage, but these followers of Thurisdan, I, these are not my people.
Perhaps you can learn where they went wrong in their ways. There
Well,
must be
that's-
some history attached or kept, which would detail their misguided path.
Looks like it's the prophecy pertaining to me that involves this firestorm.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. I mean, technically, the Pasha is probably killing hundreds of thousands of your people, since he's clearly
That's
tied to
true.
this lava.
Um,
The vessel of Horus.
yeah.
The Mount
Okay.
of Fire. Is there a mountain of fire that we've? Is it where was the Mountain of Fire? Or where was the pyre that because we saw a giant pillar of flame, didn't we?
You did.
Yes. And that was probably coming from somewhere around where you are now.
Okay. So then, yeah, this is based on the prophecy. This is probably where Cleve needs to be anyways. At least for his part of the prophecy.
Wherever this dark door is, maybe we can close it again. I don't know. Yeah. Dark door. It sounds like a fucking thing with what's his fuck it? The god, the Thurisdan. Yeah.
One of his many names is
Yeah.
what's his fuck it.
What's his
Yep.
fuck it? Yeah. Everybody's a what's his fuck it to me.
Right.
It's either a what's his fuck it or what's her bitch.
So if that's
Perhaps we get closer, and I can call upon this magic.
Can we search this dude's body? See what he's got.
Oh yeah, is he dead now?
Yeah,
We just
Finish
stepped
stabbing
away.
well,
him.
yeah, right, yeah, that's what I assumed you did. Yeah, looking back over, you could see they're still having at it. At this point, they've pulled his intestines out,
Okay. Yeah.
and they are just sort of throwing organs.
Okay.
Well, at least we can walk still. If you give me a minute, I can start that.
While you do that, Clave would turn to the other changelings and telepathically communicate. We are the most secret of Thurisdan's agents. That is how we came to know that this person was a deceiver among you. It is important that our mission is not revealed so that the Pasha may find his way to Thurisdan and free him. I hope that I can count on all of you to keep our presence a secret. And Thurisdan is grateful for your assistance in dealing with the heretic.
They would all agree to that. There's no reason for you to roll for that.
And then Clay would turn to the others and say telepathically, all right, you're not going to say anything.
I'll just go over there and look to see if they have come across anything other than like intestines and other things. If they've come across any items that he has.
So they're not really looking for items. You can see like he unlike them, like they were sort of in tattered rags after the ordeal. He arrived in more or less normal clothing. He looked like he was probably a prosperous merchant, or at least playing the role of a prosperous merchant. So his belongings are just sort of scattered. You do see there are a few like gemstones and pieces of jewelry scattered about. But he also had like bags on him that he was carrying and belt pouches.
Okay, I will go examine them and grab the gems before Zaria sees them.
I see him. Don't worry. My passive perception. I see.
Yeah, that's
everything.
true. That's true. Yeah, but you got a bad leg, so I can get there first.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I don't go chasing treasure. If it finds me, then I take it.
Okay. That's your story at session 100 and whatever. Okay.
Listen, just because I hoard it after the fact doesn't mean I didn't go after it. It just came. I found it, and now it's mine, and it will be mine till I die, which could be very soon. I'm very old.
That's true. Is Aurelia still looking to like get in his will? I don't know what her plan was.
Trying to think. What are the Egyptian gods that have cat heads?
Bastet is the most common one.
Okay. Do I find anything from his bags?
Does that seem to
Yes, you
match
do.
the cat
Okay.
lord?
Okay.
So no, the cat lord. You would know the cat lord's name, I suppose. Let me see. So yeah, the cat lord So the cat lord isn't usually depicted as like a man with a cat's head. The cat lord is depicted as a sort of dark skinned, usually human-ish male, maybe elvish male, or as a giant cat, sometimes as a normal house cat sized cat. But he takes different forms. None of them are typically like cat-headed men, but you would know him. He's not currently worshipped anymore, but you know, in the desert, they used to worship him under the name Pasht.
Like POSHT.
Like PASHT.
ASHT. Okay. That's like the
You're not trained in religion, right?
No, I am not proficient in it, no.
Okay. So that's as much as you would know then.
I figured I was wondering if there was like a, an Egyptian god equivalent to the cat lord.
I mean, the closest god, like, so the god you would know as sort of similar is really Bastet, and she's usually depicted as female,
Right.
but she is related to cats.
Right. But it doesn't seem like they have the same sort of necessarily domains, if you will.
Right. So it's not really clear. You wouldn't necessarily know what Pasht's old domains were, like what he would be most known for.
Indeed.
Just because you mostly know him because there are occasionally ruins that depict him.
Got it. Yeah, I suppose that's fair. Why I wouldn't really know much more about him.
So there is a list of what you find on the body. He doesn't seem to be carrying any coins per se.
Okay.
And those prices are each. So it's 2 50 gold piece black onyxes.
T-Hole will pick up the ring.
So the ring has a sort of unusual design. It appears at first to be platinum, but looking at it closely, you realize it's slightly translucent, and you can see it looks almost as if there's a liquid inside a clear outer covering that is moving around that you can occasionally see swirls in.
Curious. Does this look familiar to either of you?
What am I looking at again?
A ring.
Uh,
I don't have Arcana.
can I do, can I ritually cast detect magic? And
I mean, I will tell you just from looking at it, you can tell that it's magical.
okay. But I mean, like, could I do an Arcana check to see more about it? Or if I used like detect magic, would I be able to better get a sense of the property? Well, you know what? I have identify. I could just ritually cast identify.
You start to ritually cast that as I'm actively casting a spell that's going to fucking turn us all into clouds.
Well, I mean, I don't have to turn into a cloud right away. You
I
cast
think
the
it turns
spell
you
and-
into one right away. Like that's part of the spell.
Oh.
You turned into
Well,
one.
then I'll turn back, and then I'll turn back. And around we go.
T-Hole actually is proficient in Arcana. I didn't think of that. He could probably just like do a check himself. He's not very good at it, but he is proficient in it.
Yeah. So Arcana check might tell you a little more about the ring. It's not going to identify the ring per se, but go ahead and roll. Yeah, it's a mystery, man.
Just a normal, everyday magical ring. Run of the mill magic ring. What's it look like again?
Can I take a look?
Initially, when you look at it, like a cursory glance, you would think it's a platinum ring. But looking at it more closely, you realize that there's an almost clear outer covering, and the inside of the ring is filled with a platinum-ish looking liquid that is swirling around. There are sort of intricate patterns of swirls moving about inside this ring.
Can I make an
It
arcana
And it
check,
doesn't
or-
look like there's any space in the ring. The liquid itself just seems to be roiling spontaneously on its own, which makes it clear it's either alive or magical.
Perhaps a ring of invisibility or etherealness.
Yeah. Can I make an arcana check, or
You can.
since I have it, doesn't mean anything, but yeah.
Maybe you've seen one before or heard tale.
Yeah, you're also not really sure what to
Okay.
make of it.
Well, that guy had a lot more on it than we thought. What's this key look like that we got?
Looks almost a little bit like a ruby. It is definitely in the shape of an eye. And looking at it closely, you can see that as the Southern Sage suggested, it probably is an eye. It's only about the size of a human eyeball, but it's been sort of crystallized into a solid gemstone-like substance. However, you do find if you hold it up to your eye, you can see through it a little dimly, and obviously it colors everything red, but it doesn't impair your vision greatly. And you can see on the ground looking through it noticeable sort of lines of force that are moving across the landscape that look like a path, although it's a very twisty path.
Well,
So who is taking the key? Is Clave keeping it?
Yeah, I would probably. I mean, I'm happy to hand it to Aurelia to show her, but I would ask for it back.
Yeah, I don't want to keep it. I just was curious what it looked like.
I was hoping Aurelia would take it and then say, T-Hole, do your thing.
yeah.
So Zarius, you complete your spell. Are you covering the 4 changelings or just you guys?
I don't care about them. They can find their own way. They'll be fine.
See ya.
Yeah. How are they going to explain it?
Save, as we're starting to like turn into clouds.
Remember secrecy.
And T-Hole would turn to them and say, when I forgive myself, I free myself. As that would start just devolving into clouds.
Unsubstantiate.
All I will say to them is only the chosen.
Tell anybody and you're dead. Clave?
Clave would be the only one to forgo a cool one-liner.
Clave
As
just
he
starts
fucking takes another minute to turn back into himself.
Clave just starts screaming like he's in agony as his body turns to cloud.
Oh my god. What a world. What a world. May the Schwartz be with you.
Damn you, Thanos.
So is Clave gonna turn back and cast Identify?
So I would talk to the group and ask, do you guys want me to take the time to figure out what this ring is, or do we need to skedaddle?
I was mostly curious if you knew, if you were, there's something you're able to tell about its nature offhand, but if it's gonna delay our trip further.
It'll only take 10 minutes.
Sure.
I mean, maybe we want to travel a bit a ways so that this group, we've left them behind, and then get enough distance we can stop and I can identify the ring. It could be helpful as we get into the city.
I guess here's a question: Are we still in seeming? Because we stated before that even in cloud form we keep our seeming.
So I would have before going into cloud form, I would have changed the seaming so that it looked like just the only part of the illusion showing would have been maybe a pendant around your neck. So we're all, I imagine it would then just be a bunch of floating pendants.
Some glowing eyes.
Yeah, glowing eyes and floating pendants.
Make us look like storm clouds. Lightning.
With bling.
Very
Uh,
small.
You
Yeah.
fly off a little ways, and Clave casts Identify. So you figure out that the ring is certainly what allowed the changeling to fly here. Basically it lets you have to attune to the ring, but the ring inside has some sort of essence of elemental air, and that's what's roiling about. It looks like a liquid, but it's actually not. It's just a very dense gas. You could break the ring and release the thing that's inside, which is technically speaking alive. You'd have to presumably convince it to do what you want it to do, but there is a creature inside that ring. As long as you're attuned to the ring, however, you can basically fly at a 60-foot speed for 8 hours a day.
That's
Like
pretty
cumulative over time, like 8 hours a day.
Like you have basically no, it's more like the overland flight spell where you use it and then you have a solid 8 hours.
So like we're doing now with clouds.
Right.
But slower.
Right. Except
But
you
still
don't have to
good.
change into a cloud form to fly using this
Right.
ring.
Well, that could be handy.
um
I certainly wouldn't be opposed. I certainly wouldn't mind being able to just fly wherever, but my body is lithe and lighter than most. So it could be more beneficial for one of you.
all my attunement slots are filled.
Same.
Yep, same here.
It's a emergency situation is what that is.
Yep. Break glass in case of emergency. All right, we're gonna head to the city.
Yep.
Yeah. And do we want to part way through have me begin the process of clouding over the sky?
So you land about halfway, which only takes a minute or two for you to get halfway to the city. How far are you shifting the weather before you move on again? Are you getting to the like full blizzard level, or
Can we tell any entrances or anything like that?
so from like 5 miles out, there is no entrance that you can see. You can see there is a black wall that runs along the base, but even that is like, you know, a hairline strip at 5 miles distance. It's you know, it is probably a sizable wall. So you guess there are probably entrances in the wall.
Okay. Um, I mean, as I'm once I get the spell started, I can just ask what people if people would want to wait until the sky is fully turned, or should we go on while it shifts? It will only take us a couple of minutes to get to the city. I figured we might be a little. Maybe we do this a little bit closer than the 5 miles out, just so that I can start the thing from over the city a little bit at least. Maybe 4 miles out. I don't know how big the city is. Isn't a mile long?
We can wait until it is fully formed.
What?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
what's
let's
our
cause as
plan?
much chaos as
Yeah.
possible.
The Great Colony is actually pretty large. It is probably itself about 2.5 miles across.
What is our plan? Exactly. We got big storm what? And then we turn back into wind and big storm shows up and breaks through or what? What are we doing?
Well, I think, I mean, the Great Colony has been here for ages. It's unlikely that a weather event, even one of an extreme change as what Zarius is proposing, would actually affect the integrity of the city structures of the Great Colony, but it likely would create a commotion. I mean, especially with the emergence of the Pasha of Ifriks, and to go from a swath of magma flowing across the land to a suddenly it changing to a blizzard. I mean, I'm sure that would cause some confusion at the very least that we might be able to take advantage of. People might not look so hard at us if we were to be able to create that commotion.
If nothing else,
Yeah, I mean, right.
clouds
blizzard,
upon clouds.
a blizzard will definitely surprise people, but just to be clear, it doesn't seem as though there is any lava here in this plane. That appears to be happening in the regular world.
Well, right, but also they're aware that the Pasha of Freaks has created the fire and is all related to the elemental plane of fire.
Yeah, they know that much.
So what? So I mean, could we just like walk up to the city and we got our key and just walk in and act like we belong there?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, so the guy did suggest that, you know, they might have questions for you as you try to enter and that he would vouch for you. The guy who is now just scattered guts.
Yeah.
So that suggests there's, you know, somebody who's like checking IDs on the way in. And the purpose of the key is to get you from the regular world to this plane rather than to you know,
Oh, get
open
through
a
the door. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, once we're inside, once we're inside, what are we what are we looking? What should we do first once we get inside?
I mean, as far as I can tell, you're some of the only non-changelings that have ever been in the Great Colony. I've never been, and this has been hidden from typical travel for ages. So I think this might be one of those situations where we kind of try to get a general sense of what it is we want to accomplish, but make sure that we are open to having to adjust on the fly, because who knows what we might encounter on the inside.
One would guess that
Peppery
the
says
leaders-
that sounds like a fancy way of saying you have no plan.
Yeah.
Well, we have some strategic objectives and general goals, but the way that we achieve them is a bit more vague.
Until we get better eyes on the situation. I would imagine, like most places, the leaders are either they would be in the most fortified location. Finds that, then we enter. We find a way inside that. So I guess I'll start casting control weather.
Okay. So again, how far along do you want to take it?
All the way, baby.
I imagine the stronger the winds, the more difficult it would be for us.
I mean, don't you get to pick the direction of the wind?
Uh,
You do.
Sure. When changing the wind, you can change its direction.
So right now there is no wind, but you can basically
yeah.
set it to your back.
Okay.
So roll me 5d4.
About a little over 2 hours.
Right.
Not as bad as could have been.
Indeed. A couple of fours. That's what kind of did it in. 2, 1, 2, 4, 4.
Well, the 1 and the 4 kind of cancel to the 2s, so it's very, very average roll.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping you would do it a little bit closer to the mesa, just so all 4 changelings could freeze to death in the blizzard. But at this point, they're probably still trying to figure a way down.
Fucking down.
But after
They're
the
oh shit, what are we doing?
yeah, they finally get down and they're like, great, now we can. And then like they look and there's just a blizzard between them
Fuck.
and the colony, and it extends for like miles on both sides. But after the really 2 hours and 20 minutes have passed, so you could cast the spell and change the weather to your liking, there is now an enormous just globe of storm raging in the desert. I mean, curiously, nothing in the spell says like you guys are immune to the effects, so now you are just fucking cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's the way I read it is the temperature doesn't change until I say so. So the whatever the big storm is like appropriate for the conditions.
So it's a
Until
hot blizzard?
I don't think it would be a blizzard unless I start turning it cold.
Right. I thought you were using, in which case, that's fine. Yeah, it could still be warm. It's just a storm in the desert. I had
And
assumed
I
you
could
were
start turning
making
it cold.
Yeah,
Arctic
I
cold.
thought you were gonna max out.
That will take longer.
No, Kurt had you roll 5d4. The 5d4 is the most.
Yeah, I was basically saying you could change all three simultaneously. So, you don't have to first change the wind and then change the temperature and then
I got
change.
you. I see what you
Otherwise,
mean.
that would be 15d4 to change all three to the maximal amount.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm like shifting the weather, I will warn, like, if I do this, it will be cold for us too.
Yeah, that's okay.
We can move.
Sure.
I mean, once we get into the Great Colony, I mean, we'll have to see because there's this force field around it.
The storm will shift and start to move, follow us. And it will batter against that shield. Perhaps I could even bring it inside. Once I am inside.
That
Let us
would
move.
be interesting. Yes.
So did you change the temperature?
Yeah, fuck it.
Okay.
Have we ever like encountered a truly cold place? This group? I don't know if we have.
Yes, you definitely did have to wander through actual blizzard conditions in the mountains at one point. Long ago. You met a Wendigo and it ate a donkey, and Hellweir was very sad because
Right.
he took to the donkey.
I kind of remember that. Yeah, I was on the way to the prison, right?
Right.
So
So
yeah,
you make your way as you begin to approach the globe of the city. You see the shield of force that seems to envelop the entire Great Colony does appear to extend around the Black Wall. But you can see there appears to be one main gate in the Black Wall, at least one obviously identifiable gate in the Black Wall. There might be smaller gates around the circumference of it, but it does extend for miles around this city. Inside the shield in front of the main gate, you can see there are several apparently dragonborn, but you're guessing they are probably all changelings as well in the form of dragonborn. And one demonic looking red giant. Its eyes are really just black sockets in which you can see glowing flames. The giant looks especially unhappy because he does not like this fucking cold weather that has suddenly formed.
Beautiful.
But the giant is about 25 feet tall.
As we get closer, can we like see? We could see through the dome, right?
Yes, you can see through the field of force.
We like notice a particularly fortified location from our flying vantage point.
So the city's pretty large. If you want to fly around and look at the city and see the different parts of it, you can do that. That's fine. So circling around the city, you can see at its central point, there is an enormous green crystal ziggurat of fairly prodigious size. It's clearly, I mean, you would recognize it as a temple structure. And it's clearly the most prominent structure in the city itself. around the edges of the city, there seem to be a lot of sort of lower buildings that appear to be in the form of like castles or mansions. They appear to be like fairly formal residences. The individual crystal spires, of which there are hundreds, do all appear to have like different floors on them and appear to be populated with people. They're not all transparent, although in places you can see transparencies in them. They appear to be fairly bustling. You can't do an exact count of the number of people here, but just flying around and looking to see what you can see, you would guess there must be tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of changelings in this place. You also notice just sprinkled throughout the city little glowing bits of flame, suggesting that there are fire elementals or other fire-based creatures moving about.
See if there's a place we could just fly through.
So you're just going to attempt to go right through the field of force?
Well, I mean, there's people, right? How do these people get in? That's why I'm like just looking to see if there's a way, if like there's openings in the wall at all.
Right. So that's true. Also, flying around, you can see there are several gates into the city. Some of them don't appear as though they're used very often, in that they're like shut up and you don't see as many people around them. There are two main gates. One that you approached had, I guess, everybody trained or not, you can give me an Arcana check. So Clave and Aurelia, you would know mostly from descriptions that you've heard in the past that although particularly large, the demonic looking giant is probably an Ifrit. So not necessarily a demon, although to an untrained eye, it would be very difficult to tell them apart. Definitely not a fire giant, as Aurelia has seen at least one fire giant in her life. They tend to be black skinned, and this is red from head to toe. But there's that gate, and then there's a secondary main gate. Essentially, that one gate is to the eastern side of the city. The secondary gate is to the southern side of the city. And those gates appear to be open. That said, there's no obvious like gap in the field of force. So you're not sure how people get through the field of force. Of course, it's blizzard conditions outside, so you don't see anybody coming or going at this point. There's clearly a lot of confusion in the city as people are scurrying about and seem to be agitated. But nobody seems to be like wandering out at the moment, probably because there's a unexplained blizzard.
Yeah. Are the only breaks in the field of force like at the gates?
You've seen no breaks in the field of force. There's the only openings in the wall are at these various gates.
Gotcha.
There might be a way for them to open and close the fields of force, but they're not doing it at the moment.
I mean, as we're flying around the field of force, I'll touch it. See what happens when I touch the field of force.
Blast it out of your fucking cloud form.
So make me a con save.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll actually. The pause was all I needed.
I just figured after the Lucerosi incident that we would, I would give you some time to think.
A
So you still take, despite managing to resist the worst of the effect, you still take a fairly nasty jolt and take 20 points of necrotic damage.
Is that halved because I'm in cloud form?
No, it would have been twice that if you had failed to save.
Alright,
The cloud form, actually, does the cloud form have all damage? I thought it had like physical damage, but I haven't looked at it in a while.
yeah, let me find it here. Walk.
Maybe it is only 10.
I'll show it to you guys there. Has resistance to damage from non-magical weapons.
oh, I don't know why I thought that it was like. Different than that. Okay. So as that pain rips through my body, I will say to the group telepathically, don't touch the force field. It'll hurt.
Clearly.
Not clearly, because we're in cloud form. Nobody can see my pain.
What did the wall have a visible reaction?
Did the
How about
wall have?
Like were there
you didn't-
sparks?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have seen anything where he touched it. No,
Okay.
but
It didn't
you
like
would have.
ripple.
But no, you didn't notice any change in the wall. Clave, you would have noticed though that the wall, as far as you can tell, feels entirely solid, almost like a wall of force.
What's the snow look like as it hits the?
The snow seems to be like initially it was like, well, if you get towards the flatter part of the top, you can see the snow initially begins to pile up, and then sloughs off.
Got it.
It is slowly, it's still taking its time. It hasn't been that long. You can imagine it will eventually build a pretty solid snow drift underneath the under part of this globe, as it does look a bit like a snow globe. There's this black wall at the bottom, and it's sort of overshadowed by this field of force above it. So right now it is piling up into a fairly sizable wall of snow on one side of this globe. And over time, over a few minutes, you have noticed that the storm is slowly shifting from the point where you created it, slowly following you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got it's like covering half the city or whatever, so it's fine.
Would it be worth it to, well, if one of us had dispel magic, to revert back and use an action point maybe and punch a hole in it and see if the snow would go through?
So the globe itself is also like 2.5 miles high. So it is a spherical globe. If you convert it back, it's not clear where you would stand except on the globe. And Clave might recommend against that, since if you were standing on it, you might start taking continuous necrotic damage.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have dispel magic.
I mean, can we just go through one of the gates? I mean, there's a blizzard out and we're in cloud form. Hopefully we could slip past.
Well, we have to get the force field open, so we'll likely have to speak with them and convince them to let us in. But luckily we have this storm to bond over. Crazy weather, right?
So what's
So, I mean, as a changeling, how did the person that, we got the key from, did he appear as a changeling? Or did he appear as something
No,
else?
he appeared human. That was the form he
Okay.
was in when he first arrived.
Oh, we should have done, right? Speak with Dad on that guy. Hey, how would you have identified yourself? We have
So,
a heist,
then-
a heist movie moment where we go back in time and no,
So-
it's fine because remember whenever we did the thing.
I
So
mean,
this isn't
he is
common.
mostly still there. That said, the corpse may recognize his killers.
I didn't kill him. I wasn't.
That's
I was
true.
way off. Had no part of that.
So,
got seen.
I would point out to everybody, as a changeling, I mean, I'm sure you heard them talking about how they couldn't sense us. So changelings have an innate ability to sense other changelings. It's not something I can easily explain, but if a changeling can sense a changeling, then likely there's also some way of detecting something inherent to that changeling. Now, I haven't been around enough changelings to know, but I would guess that's a factor.
So in that case, all of us will, except for you, will clear. We won't show as changelings.
Well, I don't show as a changeling either. I have a special object that masks my presence from divination magic. That has the benefit of preventing me from being detected in this way as well, which is why they thought it was weird that they couldn't sense me, even though I am a true changeling.
Well, perhaps then we all have this.
Well, that's how I explained it to the group, that everybody had that object, but they were also wounded and we had saved them from the cliff of the plateau, so they had less reason to distrust us. One thing that we can try is, as we get, if we do reform ourselves and attempt to enter through one of the gates, if we're close enough and if I can take a moment to hide from view, I can possibly read the thoughts of whoever we're encountering, and that might help gain us entry, but it's risky. Changelings have an intuitive defense against having our thoughts read. So it's probably not going to work, but that would be the only option that I can see.
Didn't we say we saw fire elementals in here or something?
You did see fire creatures walking about. I mean,
so
you're pretty far up, but you're guessing that some of them at least were fire
and there's some
elementals.
sort of a freed at the gate. We might not even need that. We're loyal followers of Thuristan, man. Coming out of the storm. Let us in. What the hell?
Zarius will stop and like look up. They have dispelled it. In about the amount of time it took to form, it will have dissipated. If we do this, we should do it now. While the snow still blusters.
So I've never encountered any followers of Thuristan. Have you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
They were
yeah,
very
right.
unpleasant.
Definitely have.
Well, great. Describe to me how they looked, and we can disguise ourselves as them.
Well, there was an email.
I mean,
They-
yeah, all the ones you saw there were multiple humans basically. And then there was a Bar Corsix who was clearly a cleric of Thurisdan, and she was an Aasimar, basically, a white-haired Aasimar. But otherwise pretty human overall in appearance.
Were they
and we
Were there
have-
any were there any special features that you guys recognize? Any equipment that they all had? Any markings that they bore in
Yeah.
their
There was a-
clothing?
There was a black puckered butthole on there as their holy symbol, I think.
An asshole. There was an asshole on there.
a black asshole.
If you look at the picture, if you've ever seen Community, that's just like that.
It's true.
And she had a flaming mace.
Yeah, was it?
I don't know if that's significant to them, but the symbol seems to be appropriate, considering she was also looking at the enormous sphere of annihilation.
Okay. And this woman that you described, that was their leader of the group that you encountered?
Yeah, seemed to be.
Okay. Aurelia, are you comfortable portraying this person? I feel like you probably are the best one to mimic them best, since you were there and you're quite talented in deception.
Well, I'll do my best.
I can assist. I think I prepared the spell. Yes.
So I would recommend that we take a few minutes to fly away from the city. To
approach on foot.
Yeah, but also to give us some distance where we're not seen, so that we can prepare the disguise.
Again, the snow should provide some cover while it's still here. It was coming down quite hard.
Okay, well, let's hurry.
Good thing we fly really fast.
So you're gonna
once-
land in the storm and cast spells there. Or on the far side of the storm, cast a spell. I'm just not sure where you're going.
Not on the far side. I'm how
I
long?
mean, you move
maybe
you
a
move
mile
very
out.
yeah, you move very fast. So if you were on the far side of the sphere, that is a difference of a couple minutes flight time.
Sure.
Yeah,
Then
I
if,
mean,
if we're approaching on foot, then we gotta be closer.
That's-
Otherwise,
that's
it's gonna
true.
take forever. Yeah.
so I will, once we reform, I'll begin crafting the disguises. Everybody should already be hit with the seeming So, I'll continue to refine the images based on your memory of these individuals. And then once we have it as close as we can get it, then I'll say, all right, this is the best I can do. Hopefully it's good enough.
Who is to do the speaking?
Aurelia. I mean, she is disguised as the leader that you had described.
That that leader, I believe, if I remember correctly, really hated Aurelia.
Why?
Really had it out for her.
What was there some epic spell duel or something that happened?
It was a bit of a fight.
I think were we all was like Aurelia the only one that was awake though? Because it was like Aurelia and I remember Aurelia and that person and that person was like talking
Right.
like while we were all in bed like in the middle of the night.
That's very likely that was true. I can't recall. It's been a while. Okay.
So one thing to consider, I with this spell, I can't change your voices like I can change mine. So Aurelia, you'll need to adjust your voice and the
No
cadence of your
problem.
speech as needed.
Uncanny how much you sound like her.
Yes. Yes.
Then as when we get a little bit closer, I don't know how far out, like how long we gave ourselves to walk there, but so long as it's like within an hour, maybe within 30
I would
minutes
say
or
10
so.
minutes maybe.
Yeah,
It's cold.
Yeah, even better.
Cold as
So
balls.
what I'm gonna do is cast Enhance Ability. And I guess here's a question: would you let me put different? So if I upcast it to target more than one person, could I put a different effect on another person?
Sure, why not?
It doesn't specifically say that you can't. It just says that you could target an additional person, an additional creature for each slot.
Yeah, I mean, that's not how I read it, but I don't care enough to ruin your fun by saying no because I read it slightly differently. So go knock yourself out.
I mean, if not, it's fine. You'd save me
No,
a
I
third
think
level
it.
spell slot.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I don't know if
Split
it'll
it up.
matter.
Yeah, if we were like third level, I guess I might be more inclined, but you're like close to demigod level. So a
Sure.
spell slot here or there is just not going to change the game.
Then I will give Eagle's Splendor to Aurelia so that she has advantage on her charisma checks. And I think what I might do is give Fox's Cunning to Clave just in case. And he's to like pull some fucking knowledge out of his ass. Make a
That's
history
for
check or some shit.
intelligence?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Aurelia would have advantage on charisma checks, and Clave would have advantage on intelligence checks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my fourth levels. Those are handy to have around. But then, yeah, after that, since I'm no longer concentrating on the fucking control weather, I might as well throw this out.
So you cast your spells.
And then I just stand back. I'm just a guy traveling with these people.
So how is everybody going to appear? I get that Aurelia will look as much like Abara Corsix as Clave can work out from the descriptions he's getting. I mean, so there's a question. You remember basically what she looked like. are you guys fucking around and giving him a good description? Or, you know, does she look like derp version of her? Or
I'll say this: the other part of my intent is so that of giving him the fox's cunning was like so that he can like tweak it, like be smart about how the face arrangement is as we describe it to him. It's like, oh, okay, they probably mean, you know, for the nose to be like this.
I mean,
right. So I guess, but so my question is,
It can
I'm
be
happy.
refined, that's what I mean.
Right, and I am happy to give him advantage on a check to see how close he gets. But that assumes you're trying to give him an accurate description and not the derp version of her.
Right. No,
Yeah.
for sure. Like I would give as best to
Right.
recount as
And
best
Aurelia,
as I can.
Aurelia might be like, no, her nose was twice as big as this, and she had an
No.
underbite.
Trying to
No.
make her look ugly. Yeah,
Yeah, I obviously,
yeah.
you know, make sure we get the symbol correct. And
Right.
you
That
know.
is sufficiently easy to do. It's an all black symbol with a circle with arrows coming out of it in
Right,
like
right.
cardinal
And
directions.
the hair,
That's
the eyes,
pretty easy.
and she was human, you know, like other than that. I mean, I'm guessing that's what my character would probably best recall would be those features there.
So Clay, go ahead and make me an intelligence check with advantage just to see. So yeah, you are all pretty happy with the result. Looking like her. Or, you know, like her sister or something, something reasonably close, given that he hasn't actually seen her himself.
You're looking
But
good.
what are you also giving her like all of her equipment? Because she was like
Yes.
in plate armor and flaming mace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that.
And what's everyone else going to be looking like?
The grunts that died in her care.
Teal's gonna look like he's gonna look like an old man, with like long gray stringy hair, and an eye patch.
Okay. I mean, you would know that's not what her group looked like, but you could choose whatever you want. her group were all relatively young, like mercenaries almost. That's what they looked like. They were out there in a dangerous place with monsters. So it wasn't like crazy farmers.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to trust Teal and
Right, no,
Darius.
Teal can
Yeah.
look like whatever he wants.
Yeah,
Just making sure that he realized that he didn't look like one of those guys.
She could have picked him up, you know.
Well, I mean, she clearly didn't care about them because she murdered two of them trying to kill you guys in your sleep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what Teal's. I'm gonna stick with it. So that's Teal's gonna look like.
And Clave, I assume you're just going with one of their descriptions.
Yeah. So if you guys want to fuck with me, this is the best opportunity you'll have.
I remember what the other people looked like. Yeah, they had really stupid faces.
Right. Yeah, his nose was bigger. It looked like a wang, like a tiny wang.
And his eye just drooped a little bit to the left.
yeah.
Well, Clave could do that naturally. You hardly have to change at all. So in your disguises, you proceed to trudge across. You're, you know, about 10 minutes away from the gate. I guess there'd had to be a little bit of guessing because you really have to At that distance, you not only have to like make your way through the now accumulating snow on the sand, but the sand itself is pretty wet. So, you know, at least you're not sinking into it. But then you come upon the wall where all of the snow has slid off of the wall of force and fallen into this enormous pile in a semicircle around the main gateway that you have to clamber over. But roughly, 10 minutes later, you do see the gate looming ahead of you with a field of shimmering force in front of it. You also notice that as you get closer, the sand sort of gives way to shards of crystal that appear to have grown across the surface, that are now a little bit slick with the water from the melting snow. But you can still see the sand basically through it because the crystal basically roadway is transparent. But you are now essentially standing on a crystal road that is quickly sort of growing outward into a crystalline floor that seems to be the base on which the wall rests. And you still see several changelings in their dragon-born forms, and one very tall Ifrit standing at the gate in front of you. They don't seem to have noticed you yet, however. You're still a far enough distance out.
Okay.
You would guess that the field of force ends about maybe 30 feet, 40 feet away from where this gate is. And they're on the inside of the wall of force. You're on the outside of it. Give me a second. Back.
All right, Leah, lead the way.
So yeah, we'll walk up to the wall of force, not touching it, and stand there for a moment, like I'm supposed to be there, and I'm pissed off because nobody has let me in yet.
So now you're about 40 feet away from the gate. The Ifrit has clearly noticed you. He is not moving in your direction. Everybody, I guess, give me a perception check. You know what? I guess it's more of an insight check. You can definitely see these people. It's a question of what they're doing.
We can insight, yeah. I'm not tracking.
Really is too pissed off
Yes, I'm too angry.
to care what these people think. So Clave and T-Hole and Zarius, you can see there is a lot of sort of like excited looking back and forth among the changelings. Clave, you in particular would gather that they are probably exchanging messages telepathically, and they appear to be confused and agitated as they look out at you.
So telepathically, I would warn Aurelia. They're looking confused and agitated. Well, I would warn everybody, but because I don't know that Aurelia failed that check. But yeah, I would warn everybody. It seems like they're agitated. We actually might be in for a fight.
And Clave, you can obviously sense that these Dragonborn are really changelings. The rest of you are just making that assumption, but you feel in the background a much more powerful mind than theirs is approaching and has probably just entered the limits of your ability to detect him. And you see what again appears to be a Dragonborn, but in very different clothing. The Dragonborn who are at the gate are basically just in typical light armor. This person is in robes and is moving pretty slowly. Has taken the appearance of an aged dragonborn, who moves even more slowly than Zarius, who,
Whoa.
despite his limp, is actually pretty quick on his feet.
Because I'm huge. Let's get a real long gait. That's all.
I'm gonna
But
look.
he does appear to be, all of them do appear to be copper dragonborn. But this this one, he's taking the appearance of somebody who's comparably old to Zarius. So, early senior citizen level at least. But he slowly makes his way through the gate in front of you and over to the edge of the barrier. And I guess I should whisper this to Aurelia.
So as they're approaching, I would ask Clave, can your kind read thoughts?
Yeah, some of us. I mean, I can with magic, but I'm sure that there are those among us that are capable of reading thoughts. I've met at least one changeling capable of great psychic talents.
Okay. With that, when he says that, okay, with that said, as I would cast mind blank on myself.
So post mind blank. So you hear, as the guy is sort of walking out the gate, Aurelia, you get this message telepathically. And this is probably just about the time you're casting mind blank.
Suspense is killing me. I hope it lasts.
Is it raining? Is it pouring?
It's,
Is a
And you are,
hurricane blowing?
yeah, you are certain that he at least saw you casting the spell, since there's like verbal and somatic components.
okay.
That doesn't mean he knows what you cast, but he saw you doing something. But she's a spellcaster. Definitely, she's a
Right.
spellcaster.
Okay. So I will wait till he comes up to me.
So he has paused probably about 15 feet away from you, still inside the shield.
We have been interrupted, as you see. And I turn back as the snow tracks.
Sorry, this is miserable.
He's used to that
heat,
he is again answering you telepathically.
Hmm. Unfortunately, I was called away. These, I just turned back at the three of them, have followed me. They are loyal to Thuristan and can be used for his purposes.
And in your head, you hear an acknowledgement. All of you then see this wizened looking copper dragonborn begin to ritually cast a spell.
Is it dispel magic?
Any way that I could determine the spell he's trying to cast?
You could make an Arcana check to try. If anybody who's trained could make an Arcana check to figure out what he's trying to do.
And I have advantage.
So Aurelia and Clave, you are not, neither of you is familiar with this ritual. It is something entirely new to you, but you're able to discern after watching him for at least, a few 6-second rounds that the spell he's casting, the nature of the magic is an effort to reshape a wall of force. So he is probably opening up a gap in the shield in front of you. Or causing it to expand outward to inflict damage on all of you. Hard to say.
One of the two.
But it's probably going to take him like a minute.
I'm going to turn. So, in the time he is doing that, I'm guessing that probably within the first 20 or 30 seconds, maybe I'd figure this is what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn to look sternly at the three miscreants I have picked up along the way and tell them to, behave yourselves in the great colony, and then whisper to Clave that the person that the person that I look like is here.
Did we kill her?
Mm-mm.
That's not
No,
good.
she got away.
I thought we killed her. How the
Nope,
fuck she get away?
She word of recalled away to
Yeah,
her
yeah.
sanctuary.
Right. I haven't had time to fucking set that spell up. That'd be fun.
I also tell Clave that she may be at the shrine of the Elder Eye, Elder Sign, Elder Eye, Elder Sign.
Elder sign. Cthulhu?
Wait, what'd you say?
I said that she may be at the shrine of the Elder Sign.
Shrine of the
Okay. Should we go and confront her? Play up the image? And I'm saying this telepathically.
All I know is that once we are inside the wall of force, we have to figure out a way out to get out of the wall of force if things go pear-shaped.
Oh, maybe we'll find the source. Let's bring the
Correct.
whole wall down.
Are they gonna escort telepathically? Clay would ask Aurelia, are they gonna escort us, or are they going to let us walk free? I mean, if this person that you're pretending to be is already there, then clearly this is they're going to want to get to the bottom of this as soon as possible.
Well, maybe they believe that I have stepped outside the walls for just a moment.
All right, we'll go with that.
So yeah,
And- Yep. So after, I'm just making sure everybody got in whatever they were curious to ask. After a minute and an action have passed, you see looking almost like water pouring down suddenly. The field of force in front of you parts into a almost teardrop shape that then sort of opens up like a curtain. And you can see there is definitely a strain in the wall where this opening has appeared, as if the wall of force just is pressing in to knit back together as quickly as possible. But this dragonborn / changeling in front of you is maintaining concentration on holding the gap open. And he, although he had knelt down at the end of his ritual, he stands again. And Aurelia, in your mind, you hear, "There you are, Holy One."
Praise be to the Elder Eye. And I look disgustingly back at the 3 people who have followed me here and say, forward, and I walk in.
Scout salute.
every time Aurelia would like look back and give a disgusted look, T-Hole would hang his head in shame or faux shame.
If there's a moment where we're not being actively perceived, Clave would hand Aurelia discreetly the key, because he would realize, as you are the leader, you are likely the one carrying it.
They letting us through?
So yeah, the gateway is open.
Yeah, I walk through and really hope that they hurry through and they don't block me in here.
So as
I
you
follow.
move forward, you get closer to the opening of the gate. The Ifrit in front of you is just sort of standing there, not moving. He's clearly regarding you closely. The changelings who are otherwise standing around him have begun to sort of scatter to the sides. You do notice that the snow and the storm itself has not penetrated the shield. And it is dry, cold, but dry inside. The temperature change is the only thing that seems to have actually made its way through. As you get closer, though, and you're still about 25 or 30 feet away, the Ifrit chimes in a booming voice. "I don't understand how you got outside again."
Those mysteries
Why?
are for me.
"You are an impertinent bunch, changelings. But why go outside again? You only came out here because of this magical storm."
My
"Who
matters
are
are
these?
known to Thurisden.
And you didn't travel with these people before."
No, they are loyal to Thurisden. We shall test their loyalty later.
You can see there's considerable agitation among the changelings, who aren't accustomed to seeing people question the Holy One, whatever that meant. Actually, only Aurelia heard the Holy One.
No,
But
that
you
guy
could
said
see,
it. That guy said it out loud.
no, it was actually the other changeling who said it to you
Oh,
telepathically
okay,
in your
my
head.
bad.
This guy is not referring to you as the Holy One. So the Ifrit is not moving. He is, leaning on a humongous scimitar, but he is not currently threatening.
May we pass?
So roll me a deception check.
Come on, deception.
Because
Got
you
that
just made your
advantage.
first mistake.
Yeah. You don't ask, you command.
You just do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not very impressed with you, clearly, but he's not used to her asking things. Let's see. So he laughs to himself a little condescendingly and says, "This is your realm, not mine."
I was waiting for you to figure that out. That's okay. I know your kind moves a little slow.
Careful, priestess. I am not here to take your abuse. Our alliance has its limits.
Abuse? I haven't even started.
Neither have I. So you're walking past him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you make your way past him. You enter into a large courtyard. You see
I
in the
growl
center
at
of this.
it.
That's true. What were you changing your form? T-Hole turned into like a stringy haired old man. Clave turned into an approximation of one of the guys of Bar Corsax was traveling with before. I wasn't sure what Zarius was doing.
I don't think there's apparently dragonborn looking ones here. Zarius had no ability to pretend to be anything else. The only thing he could do is just not talk.
So you're not really changing, just looking like you.
Yeah, whatever Clave does is what I look like.
All right,
that
well,
could be anything.
I would Clave would make
Dirt
sure
version.
that you looked like somebody that was traveling with this person. So you are probably not a dragonborn unless you tell me that there is a dragonborn traveling with this individual.
There was not, as far as I remember.
So then you look like generic henchman number 2.
I'd be more intimidating if I looked like me. Am I at least retain my size?
Yes.
Cool. My intimidating stature.
I have to admit, I'm slightly disappointed because Zarius is the only one of Bar Corsax definitely would have recognized on sight. Of course, she might be surprised to see like her twin sister.
It's been so long. She wouldn't remember me. It's fine.
But you can see that this particular place, it's made of a kind of white yellowish quartz. It's opaque, but the whole place does appear to be made, at least the main structural elements are this quartz rock. In the center of this open courtyard that you're entering into, you can see there is hovering above a pool of water, a black sphere that is pulsing with light, and otherwise it's just hanging in the air. Around it, you can see 4 smaller spheres. One appears to be made of fire, one appears to be made of water, one is pure electricity, and the other is just, as near as you could tell, swirling magical energy. And they seem to be slowly revolving around this central black sphere. They are all, they're about the elemental spheres seem to be about 10 feet across. The central sphere is probably about 15 feet across. So they're slightly smaller than the thing they appear to be orbiting. You can see there are fairly lush gardens all around you. Across from you, you can see there's a set of stairs that rises to a large set of double doors, and it appears as though the gateway directs people in that direction. Off to the side, there are two smaller structures that might be some sort of shrine. It's a little hard to say, and much smaller sets of stairs that rise up to a secondary level. You can also see that there is, at least to the north of you, a statue of a strange looking mind flayer like aberration, that behind which there is a ladder that leads up to a rampart at the top of the wall. At the moment, you don't see anybody atop the wall, though.
Does the mind flayer look like the one that we saw in Akator?
Karahul.
Karahu.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look like it doesn't actually look exactly like a mind flayer either. It looks like a very twisted form of a mind flayer. This one has many more tentacles than a mind flayer would. It's also about 20 feet tall. It's a very big statue in a black crystal, possibly onyx or obsidian. You're not really sure. It overall has the sort of impression of a mind flayer, but some sort of mutation of one. You can also see there are various other changelings, and you now see another Ifrit at a secondary but closed gate on the far side of the courtyard.
So telepathically, Clave would turn to the others and say, all right, so what now? Do we go and confront the double? Do we use our authority to gather information about the Pasha?
At least potentially finding a base of operations within the city. Someplace relatively safe. Are you able to sense these minds through walls? Or does perhaps these crystalline structures serve as a barrier?
I can only sense changelings out to a certain distance. It's kind of it's almost like being able to smell somebody. So it's a fairly limited sense.
As you make your way to the center of the courtyard, Clave, you sense a changeling with a mind far stronger than any you've encountered ever since you've ever first sensed a changeling. And you
I
gather
turn.
they are behind the double doors ahead of you. Behind those double doors.
So you would see Clave kind of take a moment and shudder. He has to refrain himself from shuddering such that it would ripple his form, which has been known to happen from time to time when he gets really agitated. And he telepathically whispers to everybody, there's a very powerful changeling behind that door. I mean, that could be is a person that we need to talk to try and get more information.
What's this building look like?
So this is like almost like a gatehouse that leads into the main city through the wall.
Gotcha.
Although this is, you know, itself made of white crystal rather than the black rock of the wall itself.
So the way further into the city would be through those double doors or over like here?
I wasn't sure where over here was. No, so that is a second. Right now, that gate is closed, but
Got
that
it.
is a second gate that leads outside.
Outside. So the only way into the city would be to go through this
The-
door?
Right. This courtyard funnels people in that direction.
Yeah.
You know, there are little side stairwells, so there are probably other ways to navigate around.
Seems like it's our only choice is to go through.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is this is a changeling mind that I can sense from even beyond this door. They must be incredibly powerful. I would be very cautious as we move forward.
I will continue to look down and not say a word. I have everything I need to succeed.
It's telepathically Clay would continue. I'm very concerned about the fact that this person is supposed to have be here. Because not only do we risk running into this person, but now it sets a precedent that this person must know the layout and this great colony well enough to move about it, which means we are at a very clear disadvantage not knowing where we're going. If we look like we don't know what we're doing, we may be discovered.
We should head.
It could be that this person is showing us the city. If we are newer. As she has set precedent for, with the guards at least. We'd also shift the look easily enough. Yes? Once we
Well,
find a place.
If we can get out of sight, sure. But that doesn't really help because none of you would appear as changelings. None of you would detect as changelings. And so if the only creatures here are changelings, this person that Aurelia is disguised as, and these elemental creatures, then it's going to be very difficult to maintain the disguise.
Could we tell whether that lady was a full-on Aasimar or was she actually a changeling? Do we ever get any indication at all?
As far as you can tell, she was Aasimar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like she didn't use like unsettling visage or change her shape at any point you saw her.
Sure.
That the people who were with her, they all died, and you would have expected them to revert back if they were changelings.
Mm-hmm. So it's not unheard of for her to have non-changeling companions.
Right. At least she seems to have had non-changeling companions at the time.
Right.
Then again,
Converse.
she didn't give a shit about them.
It's true.
So,
Yeah, but we're stronger than those people, so she'll take a greater interest in us.
Can I make heads or tails what this black orb and the elements are, just to get a gist of what it's supposed to be? Is it
So you're not sure why. I mean, all of you would sort of recognize that the scene is vaguely reminiscent of, although somewhat less complicated than what you saw in the sky in the Sage's realm, with the sun and three moons circling around the dark moon. But you would also realize that although you don't know why it's pulsing, why there's any light coming out of it at all, there is something reminiscent of void stuff with the black central sphere.
Hmm. Okay.
Feels like home, right, Aurelia?
Feels it's good.
We
Around
should
here.
move with authority.
Are these guards or who are these people as I approach? Are they
Which people?
uh
These people?
the white
These
haired
ones?
emo
Yeah,
kids?
all the white-haired emo kids actually look like Dragonborn,
Oh, okay.
but they do appear to be guards or possibly like customs agents. It's hard to say.
And what do they do as I approach? Oop.
They seeing you approach, they more or less tense up. They're clearly uneasy around you. In fact, you hear in your head, Mother Corsix, I I can't quite sense you. It's creepy.
I just smile. Whoever said that. I give a smirk to them.
Psychically, Clave goes, shit. Wait, it's that person does that telepathically to Aurelia?
Yeah.
Oh. Never mind. Alright, so where are we going?
We're going through the double doors where you sense the presence.
That's down here.
Go big, go home. I mean, what? Oh, it's down there. My bad. I
Yeah.
thought it was okay. Burp, burp. So yeah, I will just kind of approach those people, walk back.
Shall we?
I look at them and say, "It's time to prove your worth."
Keyhole flinches and like holds his hands up defensively.
Oh, this is Aurelia? I thought that was one of the changelings.
Deception is that good?
Why is this one pink?
Because that is the older one that can cast
Got it.
spells. Use a
Got
different token.
Can we click
Before
on
you
this?
before you open the door, let's take a 5-minute break.
That's good.
Not sure where Clave's token went. Mike, do you know where your token is? 'Cause I've lost track of it.
What's that?
Do you know where your token is? Did it get
Yeah.
deleted?
No, it's right here.
Is it underneath?
Oh yeah, it's
Yep.
underneath T hole.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think you should be able to open the door, as Tony was suggesting.
Ah, I did it.
And as the door opens, you see really two things in front of you. One is something that's sort of, it's clearly like a statue of an enormous, well, before you move in, let me describe what you see. So it's clearly a statue of an enormous aberration. It's not to some extent in that it's got a lot of tentacles. It seems like it's sort of akin to a mind flayer, but it's not tentacles coming down from around the mouth, and it has several almost cat-like eyes that you realize are moving about as if the statue itself is alive. In front of it, you see in its natural form, so to speak, what is or once was clearly a changeling. Incredibly deformed and twisted. It has random tentacles poking out from its skin in various places. It looks almost fish-like given the degree of warping of its flesh. You could tell it is somewhat reminiscent of the warping you see in Clave's flesh when his head begins to deflate, but it's more or less an all-over body effect for this creature. It is holding a strangely crafted, rough-hewn staff made of materials you can't quite identify, and it appears to be knelt in prayer in front of this idol, the eyes of which are some of which are focused on this twisted creature in front of it, some of which are darting upward as the door opens to perceive you. And Clave, you're 100% certain that this is the changeling mind you were sensing. But what's going on with it, you don't know. You've never seen or heard of anything quite like him.
Is the green part the doors?
Yes.
Okay. My bad. All right.
And it begins to rise as the doors open. This thing.
I don't know if it can read my thoughts, but whenever I see the deformed thing, I'm like, there's like an internal little chuckle, and I'm like, Clave's future. So whoever's reading my mind at that moment, that's what they hear. Detect thoughts going. That's the surface thought right there.
So I guess you could tell me if that you think that before or after, but as the thing rises up and looks behind it to see the open doors,
it's like right now, that's when it happens.
You all feel a presence in your minds, and you immediately know it's this creature. Mother Corsyx, why have you returned here of all places? Don't you have more important things to do?
They're all important to me.
That which I have told you to do, you must do before all other things. Why can I not sense your mind? That's true. Can you receive? I mean, any Clave can block out this guy's telepathy if he wants to. Keyhole, do you have a ring?
Yeah, T-Hole's got a ring of mind shielding.
So yeah, you also can block out. And Aurelia, you have mind blank. So maybe it's only Zarius who hears this.
Well, I mean,
Well, I don't have any ability to block telepathy unless my own natural telepathy would allow for that.
no, not necessarily. I thought you did. My
Oh,
mistake.
yeah.
I was probably
Yeah.
thinking of Keyhole's ring.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it in the spell it says that it would just it can't sense my emotion or read my thoughts, but I can't imagine like if it wanted to talk to me, I'm sure I could hear it.
So yeah, so you do hear it, and it's
Okay.
questioning why it can't read your thoughts.
The 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 hour grows closer for the elder eye. I must prepare myself.
And it grows silent. Clave, you can sense it is reaching out far beyond you, Pete, like your little group. You could feel its mind expanding outward. And everybody can make an insight check.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, Zarius, you realize just in the glance this thing gives that it is at least very suspicious of Abar Corsix and Aurelia being her. Since
I'm going to telepathically communicate with Aurelia. Hopefully I can do so in a way that is not apparent to this creature. But I'm gonna say it's looking for somebody. It's sending messages out. We may need to really give this thing no doubt as to who you are.
I'll look to where Clave is. Because I have no way of telepathically talking at all until you say I can. So
All right, so I would say, Sarah, do you have something?
Darius is like,
pointedly looking at somebody. Huh? You just hear back, she is incredibly suspicious of us. We need to convince her or eradicate her.
Yeah,
Whatever it is.
I gathered that this creature is using its telepathic powers to send a message out or sense something beyond us. It may be working to corroborate our story.
Or reaching out to the real one.
Either way, it's not good for us.
it is already too late, false ones.
Yeah, figured.
I am aware that this creature is not a Bar Corsix. Why have you tried to invade the colony? And you do now realize that behind you, the changelings are all sort of beginning to move in your direction.
Heard the weather was great this time of year.
Okay. Okay, here I'm gonna make a play. Clave is going to transform into his natural form. And he will come here at the threshold of the door and kneel down and say, "Our apologies. We are followers of Thurisdan. We only recently came to discover the great colony and its role in what is happening in the world. And we did not know how to gain entrance or how to help this cause move forward. The rising of the Pasha is exciting, bringing us ever closer to releasing Thurisdan. And we did not know the customs of this place, and so we apologize for using falsehoods to engender ourselves into your presence, but we did not know how else to do so."
So I'm going to call that deception.
Yeah.
Unless you've become a true believer.
No, remember, Clave thinks it's nonsense and crazy.
Right.
I buy into it.
Clave could have like a, epiphany.
Yeah.
So hear me out. Hear me
Road
out.
to
right?
Damascus moment.
So he made a plea. It's almost religious fanaticism is what he's spewing here, right? I gave him advantage on intelligence, and he's got maybe a religion check, huh? Instead of a deception, huh? Huh? Going into Baldur's Gate theory here.
I will give you advantage on the deception check, although you do realize, Clave would realize immediately, this creature's mind really is very powerful, almost overpowering. And given that he seems to have kind of heard your psychic communication, he is probably reading like a lot of people's surface thoughts at once.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little careful even about what you think. But go ahead and make me a deception check with advantage.
So I think with okay, yeah, let me just do that first. Nice.
And hearing that, the creature says in the direction of Aurelia, "Your thoughts I can't read at all. That's powerful magic. Or psionics, but I suspect magic in your case. Drop whatever spell it is so that I can know you, friend. If a friend you are."
Of course I'm a friend. I'm not gonna drop that spell. I too came here in a ruse as well.
Clearly.
I was hoping to surprise my sister. And I figured the only way to enter was to betray her. I am Barbara Corsix.
Just Barb for short. It's every once in a while, brah.
So you're not dropping mind blank though?
No, hell no.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Hey,
No
you actually
way.
do have advantage on your deception checks, so it's not been a full 10 minutes yet.
So first, go ahead
Hour?
and make me a deception check.
I'm on deception.
You can do it.
Okay.
Jesus.
I have an action point.
Yeah.
Come on.
We want really goddamn high.
25. There we go.
There we go.
So it looks at you and says, "I can see why you might have tried to infiltrate, But why not simply reach out to your sister? Take your usual form, then. Let me see what Abara Corsix's sister looks like.
I
And
will take.
you can sense it is thinking, "Ugh, I can't believe her parents named Barbara and Abara."
All right. So from everything that I've gathered, Clave is gonna bet the farm on this one. But he is going to use his the seeming spell and change it to make Barbara look like a changeling.
Okay, so go ahead and you know what? I'll just go straight on to make me a deception check with intelligence. And so with advantage.
Okay. So that'll be history would be the same thing. So I'll just do history.
Let's see. So you hear in your mind, you see there's a wave of psychic energy passes you, and the changelings stop advancing. And the creature says, "Well, we can't have you wandering about the city. You would never find your sister that way anyway. You may wait in the garden and we can let her know that you're here." And he beckons for the elderly changeling to come forward.
Oh, don't say that. Just say there's a guest waiting. I want to surprise her.
That I do not object to. You take them to the garden, where they can await the arrival of this one's sister. And you definitely feel one drawback this creature has from having such a powerful mind is it can keep its conversations private telepathically, but you can feel it is communicating something else that you're not hearing to this changeling. Yeah, it's more like in your heads, it sounds more like rushing water as the energy of this creature's mind just shoots past you.
Asking, hey, do you have a sister named Barbara?
Barbara.
And so the changeling leads you around the enormous statue and away from this creature. And through actually a series of what looks like it might be gardens. There is a flower garden in the room beyond this one, and then off into a side passage where it opens up into a much broader garden with trees and little artificial ponds in which you can see fish swimming. And he says that, you've all been instructed to wait here.
Is that
On
one
the
just, like,
walls.
watching us?
So he is actually not looking at you, but kind of looking across the roofs. He is on top of the wall.
Hmm.
So occasionally he is glancing down at you, but he is the only guard you can see in this section of the wall. That said, the wall's pretty wide. So if somebody was on like the far end of the wall, you're not sure you would see them. So if they were looking out. But he does seem to be positioned to look across the rooftops of this building. He's also about 40 feet up. He's fairly high up on top of that wall.
Hmm. These are shitters.
Yes.
Knew it.
So now that we're no longer in the presence of the great-minded changeling,
Is this one still here?
Yes.
Still a
uh,
pretty strong one, right?
Sorry, what's a pretty strong one?
He was displayed as being a little more powerful than the others.
He was
Was that-
displayed as being a little more psionic than the others and able to shape the force field around the city.
Mhm.
So a little more magical than the run-of-the-mill customs agents and slash guards.
Right.
so Clave is gonna relax his mind for a moment, not so closely guarding his surface thoughts so that he can direct telepathy at Aurelia and ask, why did you do that? We had an in. It seemed like this great-minded changeling was gonna buy our story, and then you just lean into the deception of this person that you impersonated. It's gonna be easy for this to be checked.
He wanted me to remove my mind shielding. I'm not doing that.
I don't blame you for not doing it, but be smart about how you go about it. Don't lie. Don't create a lie that can be verified.
I was just buying us time. Once we entered the walls, we were on a time limit.
Yeah, but we're behind enemy lines. We can't afford any mistakes. Well, there's nothing we can do about it now. We have to go with what we're doing, but Jesus. Not Jesus. Sekhmet, I guess.
You can say Osiris. It's okay.
Or Tough Nut.
Yeah. By the gods.
Which one?
Right, so
So you are in this garden area. It's pleasant. You're not. It is. They're definitely into their gardening. It's every room you pass through, you saw lots and lots of plants. It seems as if they're trying to keep things as pleasant and civilized as possible, which might not be what you would expect from Thurisdan cultists.
Yeah, does this garden seem, is there anything off about it, or does it seem legit? Not like
Seems.
they have any skills.
I mean, it just seems like a garden.
How deep?
It is designed to look like a wild space. You would gather looking at it that actually everything's been pretty carefully planned out for where everything goes. But it is designed to look almost as if like it's grown naturally. The ponds themselves are not very deep, you would gather. I mean, maybe at the largest of them, maybe at its center is like 8 feet, but the water's very clear. You don't necessarily see there's no flow of water into this place that you can see, so it must be pipes underneath the ground. And you appear to be walking on regular soil, not even sand. This is regular dirt. So it is a landscaped area, and with 3 toilets off to the side. Clearly it is designed, for people to wait in. There are benches also scattered around.
I'm gonna go investigate the toilet.
Clave,
You give me an investigation check.
Never know what you're gonna find.
I'm looking to see, is it like a large pit, or is it actually some kind of water system that takes The
So yeah, Aurelia actually has encountered flush toilets before in Mordenkainen's mansion. So these are flush toilets.
okay, so it's not just it's not a pit.
Right.
would,
It's not just a pit.
I just saw your message, Kurt. I will try and like corral the group to whisper something to them.
Do not go in there.
Basically, I would just tell them that they definitely locked the door behind us. So if we escape and are not here, they
Yeah,
know.
just to be clear, there are 3 sets of doors that lead in. You were let in through, well, that's not the right thing. You were let in through the one at the southernmost edge, but there's also one here that you're sure leads to a tower, as there is a tower that extends above the wall above you. And then there's one behind you as well, near the top of the room. And the little old dragonborn man, if he eventually shifts back into his changeling form, in which he still looks pretty wizened for a changeling. It's a little hard to say, as they do have control of their form, but he is, somewhat hunched over and barely 5 feet tall as a result. And you could see the skin on his form sags in places, not so much wrinkled, but a lot of sagging.
So Clave is gonna walk up to this person and he's gonna say, Hi, I am Asterion.
Do the voice. Come on.
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Sounded southern.
Darling. But
This is the Walmart Astarion.
Yeah.
Can I were you born here?
In
Have
the
you lived here
colony.
your entire life?
Yes, I've lived here my entire life.
I have to say, I grew up in the Empire, far to the north. I had learned of the teachings of Thurisdan, and I just have to say, it's so exciting to be in the presence of this great place. What is it like serving Thurisdan from here?
I imagine it's much like serving Thurisdan from anywhere. Thurisdan is not here in this place, as I'm sure you know. He
No, of
is the
course.
ebon one who rises. Not in the spaces we know, but in between them and outside them. He sleeps serene and primal.
And of course, I know that well, but what I mean is, this seems to be the center of the machinations that are going to lead to Thurisdan rising. Surely it's got to be exciting.
It will be exciting when he has risen. For now, this is just the way life has always been, at least for me. I'm old, but I'm not so old as to remember our progenitors. Do you know the history of Thurisdan and of our kind? He is at this point speaking aloud, as he has caught on that not all of you are able to hear him psychically.
Maybe I'm just ignoring him.
Maybe.
So
I did go around and check all the doors. They all locked. I touched the
Uh,
buttons. Nothing
right.
happened. So
Right. He would notice if you're going around checking the doors. Like he
I
is
was just
watching.
walking like casually around the edge and just like as I pass by.
Right.
No, got it.
Yeah, and he doesn't react to that, but yes, all three sets of doors are locked.
Understood. I'll
And
whisper that to Eagle.
you do occasionally see the changeling on top of the wall, by the way, is not in a dragonborn form. He is also in a natural changeling form. You do see occasionally some other movement atop the wall in different places. So there are other guards milling about. But he returns. What do you know of our history?
So I have to admit, I have not encountered many changelings in my life. Up north, we're much rarer, but I do know of Thrisden. I know of how it is destined for the Pasha to be in some way responsible for his rising with the Great Flame. And I know of the great chaos that Thrisden will bring about and how we will be maintained through that. In But I do not know the direct connection between Thrisden and our people. Is there some more divine connection that links us to his gifts, his blessings?
He is kind of cocked his head a bit at when you said up north. So you are not Dancerar, are you? You're Thralar.
You'll have to forgive me. I'm not familiar with those terms or what the difference is.
We are the Dancerar. A little more than, well, time outside of this realm means something different. But 1,000 years ago in the time of this world, and then a little more besides that, we were slaves of the Mind Flayers. Agents they sent out to cause chaos, to impersonate other people, to infiltrate and bring them back information, to conduct assassinations, whatever it was they needed us to do, all under their perfect control. But in the distant past, someone of the Dancerar discovered the existence of Thrisden. It's believed that an astral dreadnought imparted this information to him, and he began to worship Thrisden. And a tiny pinprick was poked into the prison that holds our god. And through that hole, he gave that one singular changeling the ability to resist the thraldom, the forced mind control of the Mind Flayers. And he was able to pass this along to others. And in secret, carefully, we built up a resistance against the Mind Flayers that enabled us to find a way to escape into this world. They didn't follow us. They didn't know where we went, we assume. Perhaps they didn't care, it's hard to say. But we were free, and we had escaped. Once we got here, however, many of our kind forgot the gifts that Thrisden had gifted all of us. They forgot that our freedom was his will. And many grew to worship other gods, some grew to worship no gods at all. But we, the kindred, keep to the old ways and remember that we owe Thrisden everything. And that his plan didn't end when we were free, that he intended more for us, that we, the kindred, the dancer are generally, but the kindred in particular, were his chosen people. And that when he is freed, we would be taken back into his embrace. And that is why we believe we will live forever in the roiling chaos that he will bring, that will unmake everything else. You, however, I gather, are Thralar. Your kind we know something of. I wouldn't say I have a perfect understanding of your history, but you are a separate set of changelings, related, no doubt, but separate. Your kind came here when the Mind Flayers attempted to take over that northern empire. The exact point at which they brought you here, I don't know. More than 200 years ago, I'm sure of that. And doppelgangers and changelings were again employed to infiltrate and to impersonate. All part of the Mind Flayer plan. But when the Mind Flayers were defeated, that left all of you adrift. There were no Mind Flayers left to try to keep you as their thralls, so you became independent. And here you are. Cousins, I suppose, in a sense, to the dancer are. Not too distant in the grand scheme of things, but with a somewhat different history.
Well, I hope to earn my place among the kindred through my actions and my works in the name of Thurisdan. Can I ask, what is it that we were brought to this place for? Is there something that we're waiting on?
When you say this place, what do you mean?
This room.
You are waiting for Abar Corsax to come and see her sister.
So she's going to be brought here?
Yes, she has been sent for. I'm not sure where she is at the moment. I'm sure we'll sense her approach when she gets to be nearby.
Can I ask, because we have been traveling for a long while trying to find the Great Colony, and in our travels, as we were getting close, we saw the pillar flame. I assume that's when the Pasha was released. Do you know how that happened? Did you get to witness it firsthand?
Yes, I was here when the Pasha was freed. And it was the freedom for the Pasha was simple enough in the end, because one of the things that was gifted to us by Neniak Nadom when he created this place was a gemstone that sat atop the ziggurat in the center of our city. And what we didn't know, because he'd never told us, was that that gemstone was, in fact, the prison of the Pasha. We knew it as a holy site. Many people revered it. And we believed it to be sacred to Thurisdan itself. But Abara Corsax learned the truth as she passed, at least in consciousness, into the void. And she managed to find the prison of Thurisdan and was gifted with the knowledge that the Pasha lay inside the gem. This object of worship that we were fooled into thinking should be held sacred and treated with great delicacy needed to be broken open. Once we knew that, it took us some time to figure out how to damage the crystal. And there was initially some concern that by shattering it, that we might in fact kill the creature inside it. Though it turned out that that was not such a great issue. Even if we had damaged the Pasha, his power is enough that I doubt we could have killed him merely by breaking open the gemstone. When we opened it, the Pasha could have easily burned the great colony if he had wanted to, but instead he opened a portal between this realm and the mundane world and directed his flames outward. Flames that had been building for a millennium, trapped inside this glowing crystal. I'm sure that is the pillar of flame you saw as it fired directly into the sky within the dome.
before the portal opened to carry it away. That was also what began to trigger the changing of the rock, the heating of the mantle, and the rising of the lava that now surrounds this location in the mundane world. This too is all part of the prophecy. It is likely we will have to eliminate the Dragonborn before we can finally free our god.
What role did the Dragonborn play in this?
They are sacrifice of blood. We don't need to hunt them down to the individual egg. We can merely kill most of them, and that should be enough. But it is said that a great amount of blood will be needed for the key to unlock the door to Eternity's doorstep.
I feel like I've heard that term before.
Eternity's doorstep?
Yes.
Eternity's doorstep is a concept that I suppose I could explain it, but it would be easier for me to show it to you. And he reaches out a hand towards your head.
Oh, okay.
And he lays his hand on your forehead. And this is something that only you see. The others don't quite get this. But you find yourself in a blackened expanse. Again, utterly black. And you realize this is the void that Aurelia described. Occasionally you see pinpricks of light and color, but it is very occasional. Eventually you realize you are hurtling forward at great speed towards a black planetoid. It is the surface of which, as you fly over it, you realize even in this lightless expanse, you can somehow perceive it to be made of a substance as flat as glass. There are occasional mountains in the distance, but it is almost unnervingly flat. And in the surface, in every language and in lettering that sometimes is incredibly tiny, and sometimes it's just almost too vast to take in. Yeah. So there's some phrase, and it's clearly repeated, and you get the impression that this phrase is repeated in every language, possibly every language that will ever exist. And when you finally come across it in a language you understand, I forget which languages you speak.
Many.
But whichever language you would consider to be the closest to your native version, eventually your mind kind of seeks out and narrows its scope down to the phrase, what you think of as life is a great deception. The faithful have already been claimed, taken, and saved. You are ours.
So,
And
Clave,
the creature says, you needn't be concerned with the text on the prison. That was placed there after Thurisdan was trapped by the gods. Placed there by Asmodeus, if you're curious.
I've heard something of Asmodeus being involved in this, as well as Vecna.
Vecna is an enemy, but one I'm sure that will be dealt with in time. Asmodeus, as far as I understand it, was a minor figure in cosmic history, but a great conclave of the gods decided that Thurisdan was far too powerful for their liking. And they knew that he would unmake reality, including unmaking each of them in turn. And so he was lured and tricked into this prison that they constructed, an artificial universe to distract him from the fact that he is not in the mundane world that we live in anymore. Asmodeus, this minor figure, was picked to be the guardian and to hold the key to this prison. He was imbued with vast powers by this group of gods. The terms of the mandate of Celestia were set, including his role as guardian. Somehow, over time, he managed to free himself from that role. That I'm not privy to the details of how he managed it, but he left the prison unguarded, and somehow the key was lost. The key to the prison was picked up by Neniac Nadom, and he has it still, or at least that is our current understanding.
The wand.
Yes, the wand of eternity's doorstep. The only thing which can crack the prison open and free Thurisdan.
So, with all of this happening, where is the Pasha now? And if the wand is needed to free Thurisdan and it's in the possession of Neniac Nadam, are there agents trying to seek him out to take it?
The Pasha will take it from him for us. The storm he lives in is now moving in the direction of the facility in which Neniac Nadom claims to rule over the Brightlands. It too is in a parallel dimension, a different one from this, but the Pasha can easily create a portal between the two. In the meantime, the moving of the storm will create additional flows of lava that will claim more blood. And that will help us complete the ceremony to free Thurisdan once we have the wand. Now, when that happens, Ifriks will try to ambush Thurisdan and take his power away from him. But he doesn't understand the power he's talking about. This ancient, most ancient of gods, who created most of the planes as we understand them, is far beyond anything Ifriks or Imix or whichever name anyone cares to call him by could possibly handle. It's an infant struggling before the greatest warrior ever, and he thinks he's going to steal his power away. For us, it's enough that he opened the door, and then, if Thurisdan has a use for Imix, then Imix will survive. If he does not have a use for Imix, Imix will not. I would not be hopeful if I were Imix of a long life.
But if Neniac Nadam was responsible for imprisoning the Pasha, isn't it possible that Neniac Nadam might overcome the Pasha again?
I don't think that will be a problem. The Pasha was ambushed in the first case, and it was the changelings being on Neniac Nadom's side that gave him the ability to subdue the Pasha in the first place. Neniac Nadom is powerful. There is a possibility that he will be able to subdue the Pasha, but all we need the Pasha to do is get the wand to begin with. And Neniac Nadom wasn't solely responsible for incapacitating the Pasha the first time. The Pasha has had 1,000 years to think about his mistakes and has grown in power in the meantime. Neniac Nadom himself prophesied that the crystal would not hold the Pasha forever. He didn't anticipate our helping the Pasha escape, but even that, like the freedom of Thurisdan itself, was inevitable given enough time. Neniac Nadom's power was greater 1,000 years ago than it is today. He is a shadow of himself, a lich on the verge of crumbling into demi-lichdom.
Really?
He's
So he's talking out loud, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I imagine his throat is sore. I talked out loud this long in a long time, huh? Anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking Zaris would be like, "Oh, I've taken out a demi-lich. That's easy."
Yeah, I know it was real easy. I don't know. All you gotta do is blind it, like
Yep.
blind anything, and it pretty much stops it from doing anything. um, so basically, this person just said that Imix or whatever isn't here, or is it just this? Because it sounded
So
like
yeah,
he
it
said that
mixed,
he was at the center of it, but
right. So there's two entities. There's the Pasha, which is like the lieutenant of Imix. I mean, you would know
right.
Imix is like an ancient elemental being,
Right.
the
Right.
prince of elemental fire. So Imix is in the plane of fire.
Yeah, I was mixing them up. Yeah, not
But
him.
the
Yeah.
Pasha, he didn't say it, but if pressed, the Pasha apparently has some sort of magical transport that is the central point in this firestorm that is currently moving in the direction of the tomb of Amun-Re, which is where you can find Mordenkainen, at least in his parallel plane. That's where he is. So it's the Pasha who is in the center of the storm.
Gotcha. And the storm's not here.
Right. The storm has moved from here. It was centered here when he was originally freed, but now he is going to confront Mordenkainen.
So Clave would continue. I guess what work is there left to do here if the Pasha is set to engage with Neniek Nadam?
There is a bunch of work to be done. The church isn't merely about freeing Thurisdan. Ideally, we would like all of the Dancerar and possibly the Thralar as well to embrace the truth that there is a divine being whose has been dedicated, at least in part, to celebrating who and what we are as changelings and to bestowing blessings upon us. And those who reject his blessings will suffer the fate of non-existence forever. Whereas those who embrace him have at least the possibility of eternal life. An eternal life unbelievably rich and fulfilling. Not necessarily pleasant, to be clear, as bad things will arise in the roiling turmoil of the chaos as well. But all experience is in its own way valuable. And we will be able to experience not just the things we desire or the things we fear, but things we cannot even right now imagine will at some point exist when the chaos has claimed this world. And we will experience it all. Eternally, we will be able to experience everything that chaos can create. Because given enough time, the chaos will eventually create it. That message needs to be carried to the people, because anyone who is unmade by Thurisdan will be lost forever. Anyone who dies before Thurisdan re-enters the world will also presumably be lost forever. There are some who think there is a way for Thurisdan to bring them back. I am not convinced Thurisdan will do that, but there are some. But the message must be spread. The good news of Thurisdan must be spread.
So how is it that how do we spread that from here?
To be honest, most people reject the gospel of Thuristan. They view this destruction of the world as inherently bad and do not understand its inevitability. But in secret, over time, we have brought people into the fold. This is essentially the central church, this place that was given to us by Neniac Nadam before we recognized just how manipulative he was, still is the center of the religion of Thuristan. There is so much beauty here, so much philosophy contained within the shield that protects us. But our cult extends outward. And we need to have a presence in the world. And a presence in the world does require us to have a civilization and a community that can show all of the benefits of being a member of the religion of the chosen, of the kindred. You've taken your first steps, although I gather from speaking with you that you probably have not read the scriptures. We all have to start somewhere. That's nothing to be ashamed of. I can get you a copy if you wish.
Yes, that would be greatly appreciated. I do want to note for the rest of everybody that the way Clave is playing this up, you wonder if he's actually taking in like the message and if his like curiosity and everything is genuine.
Sorry, this is unconvinced. It's just another asshole. He wants to destroy everything. Why would he save anything? These people have it all wrong.
Yeah, he doesn't want to save you anyway. You're not actually a changeling.
Sure. Well, listen, it sounds like the fucking guy could do whatever he wants. So if he wants me to stay around, then I can stay around. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, in a way, I am basing some portions of their religion on like conservative Christians who will often say like, why did the thief on the cross get saved? He wasn't like a Christian, he wasn't even a good Jew, but Jesus saved him. So yeah, technically Cthulhu can save who he will save. He doesn't have to have reasons that are understandable to the changelings.
exactly. Like, you first off,
And they are very much focused on spreading the gospel, the good news of Thurston to
that's
everyone.
basically, if they come at me questioning me, I already have like what I'm going to say to them. Like, listen, you assume you have to be a changeling to be saved.
But the standard doctrine is you have to be alive, so they can kind of force the issue if they don't want you to be saved.
Sure. I'm not okay, got it.
But you also have learned that apparently there are different strains of theological thought on questions like, do you have to be alive? Are the dead redeemed in Thurisdan?
Right.
Oh, you died before I rose? Sucks to be you.
Right.
Yeah. Damned forever.
Yeah, and
So-
he adds on that particular front, he adds the dead in this particular universe, this multiverse that we're in, they move on to be judged by the gods of the mundanes. And I'm sure they're judged harshly, and they're moved into the appropriate plane to spend an eternity in the afterlife. But unfortunately, Thurisdan will dissolve all of those planes. And most of us believe he will not stop to pick and choose who among the souls serving out their eternities will be saved. only the people of the mundane world are of interest to him, because this is the world Thurisdan inhabited before he was imprisoned. This is the world all of the gods inhabited back in those days. Thurisdan made the planes, and he will unmake them. Eventually, even bringing down Celestia, where the gods currently cower behind their walls.
And the person that we were speaking to before we came to this room, they are probably the most powerful mind I've ever encountered. Who are they?
He is the touched of Hastur, an aspect of Thurisdan. Thurisdan has taken many forms over time, especially after he realized the truth and embraced the chaos. Hastur was in the form that you saw the man kneeling before. He is extremely powerful and somewhat volatile. It is best to be deferential to him, as even Mother Corsax has to ultimately defer to his judgments.
Yes, I sense as much.
He was not pleased. Mother Corsax returned from the north, from around the lands where your people tend to live. She was investigating something up there. That is where her mind entered the void for the first time, and where she received visions from Thurisdan himself. And then when she returned, she proceeded to correct the theology of some of our leaders. Most of them had to die before they realized her truth was the one truth. He is one of the ones who survived, but I think he still bears somewhat of a grudge towards her.
I see. And so, what was he doing praying before the statue? Was he seeking some sort of revelation?
I must admit, his mind works differently than most changelings, and I do not always understand him. As I gather, he was reaching out in an effort to make contact with Hastur in the same way that Abara Corsax once made contact with Thurisdan's mind, though I don't believe his mind is moving into the void itself, into the primal chaos. Nonetheless, he is the source of a miracle. That statue has been in our care for centuries, but it was not alive. And it is clearly alive now. And that is a result of a miracle he performed upon it. At first, I was sure it was an illusion, a trick. But time has shown me that I was probably wrong in that.
How recent did the statue become embodied?
He brought it to life about 100 years ago. A little less than that. Since then, the statue itself has created its own miracles for us.
Well, I certainly hope to one day be in the presence of one of those miracles.
At some point, if you're worthy, I'm sure Mother Corsax will allow you to meditate before the statue. If Hastur deems you worthy, he will bestow a miracle upon you. It is the case that not all of the kindred were telepathic. The statue changed that. It granted the gift to all of us, some more than others. Many can read surface thoughts without even expending any effort to do so. I am not blessed in that way, although I can read service thoughts if I concentrate.
Well, that is a great gift to be bestowed upon.
Obviously, you have some of that gift too. Among the Dancerar, it's not unheard of to have the gift, but it's uncommon, often dangerous to attempt to induce it. The statue induces it naturally, at least among the kindred it does. Among those who are chosen.
Interesting.
And you feel at that moment another powerful mind, not quite as strong as the creature that was in meditation before the statue, but still pretty strong and substantially stronger than this guy. And it's getting closer. There, and you can tell there are several changelings in tow with her. As Abar Corsix appears at the top of the wall and says, I don't have a sister. Kill them. And that's where we'll wrap it up.
Nice. Well, you never. It was a good shot. Could have had Barbara Corsex could have been a thing.
Well,
Next game, that's who you should play, Peter. Barbara Corsix.
I mean, at least she walked to us. I mean, now we can fight her, kill her. This prophet guy, the aspect of
Master.
Astor, he gotta go.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll pop up in the fight too. You'll get your chance.
This is pretty much.
I am very glad you didn't fight him when you first met him, because I was like, two Ifrit and a bunch of like these little minion changeling guys and the chosen investor. That would have been a tough fight.
Yeah, I saw all of those and I was like, nope, this is a time for deception.
Yeah. It's cool though.
That's why I immediately went down and was like, no, please don't kill us. We're actually the guy, we're on your side. For realsies.
Yeah.
So I would say though, although Abara Corsix is it is clearly her. She is in the form you remember seeing her in, although she's not in armor. And you can clearly see like everything from the neck down is just burn scars.
Yes.
Now, why would a changeling have burn scars? Clave would know sometimes you get injuries so severe that you can never quite completely eliminate them. And that seems to have happened to her.
Clave knows. Fucking Mike knows. Okay, because he does it to us all the time in his game. Okay.
Well, there you go. I mean, maybe a reason to play a changeling in Mike's next game is you could just be like, "Oh, I have a deformity. Yeah, I just changed myself to hide that completely." So, but you can also kind of tell she was more dismissively saying "kill them." You're sure if she realized that this was because right now Aurelia looks like a changeling. If she knew it was Aurelia, it would probably be much more hatred.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed the additional lore and kind of the fleshing out of like where the Pasha was, and even some of the background with Thuristan.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, so I don't think I said much that I didn't say before, but I figured, it's good to recap these things sometimes because there's a lot of lore. Some of that lore is like from back when you were in Mordenkainen's Manor.
Yeah.
So way long ago.
We had a dream vision once that told us this whole story.
Right.
It was
with the
also
crystal spheres and stuff.
it was
Or the
also
crystal ship.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I think like I sent you the kind of creation story of the world that involves the crystal ship. But back in Mordenkainen's Manor, you all had a dream that was about the imprisonment of Thuristan by the gods,
Yep.
who created this sort of false world for him to inhabit.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. But like the changeling, the changelings being enslaved by mind flayers and then having the one figure out how to break through.
That's true. That I had shared with Mike before. That the Dancer basically escaped from the mind flayers and migrated here after they escaped, but that his group were just sort of brought here to be minions, and then the mind flayers were killed, so they were here all alone suddenly. That I explained to Mike previously, but not everyone.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, real interesting stuff. Very cool lore. I'm digging it.
I liked Peter's playing Abara and then Barbara Korzik's. I know, I really, yeah, to me, I mean, in my mind, I was like, oh, Barbara Korzik's is like the Mitch Connors of Peter's characters.
I'm like, this guy wants you to drop an 8th level spell I just cast. No, I don't think so. No, I'm not doing that.
I mean, he could have seen through it, but you pulled it off. I mean, he could have insisted, no, seriously, drop that spell, and then when you didn't, a fight probably would have started.
Yeah.
But he bought the sister story well enough because I mean, that's the thing. You don't know that much about like the life cycle of changelings. Who knows if they have true siblings or not?
Yeah.
But he would have known that. So you are lucky in that they do actually have siblings. Clave, however, the way he was sort of raised, if Clave had siblings, there's no way he could have possibly known who his siblings were. So if you had relied on, because they basically changelings kind of like swap out their babies for normal person babies and let other parents raise them. So they separate all of their kids. So if you had relied on Clave's advice, he would not have known that the sister thing would work at all.
Right. And we could be sisters, not in the sense that we grew up together. We hung out at some point and we're sisters now.
That's true. I hadn't considered the metaphorical sisters.
Yes, I was going to try that angle until she showed up and decided to attack. I still might do that.
You don't remember me? We
Right,
pledged
from
the
the
same
void.
sorority.
Because I can talk about the void just like she can. You remember that time you blacked out at Malakar's Keep?
Or how about that time that I burned you, bitch?
No, that's entirely fair that you can try that.
So I had come up with a whole other thing. I'm like, man, this is what I would have said, but it was all in my head, so it wouldn't matter. It's like I can't suggest anything; it's too late. But like, still following that sister theme, like you have your own weird deformity, and that you don't have the ability to change for some reason. This is just always what you've looked like, and for some reason your sister is still pretending to be her, walking around in her own face instead of using her own.
Yeah, well, that would be funny too if you came as Barbara Corsix and, you know, looking exactly like
Immediately.
Abara. Right. And
Yeah.
Barbara Corsix is like, why are you still using my face? I told you to stop doing that decades ago. Do you know how confusing it is for people that you make yourself look just like me?
You get shit like this happening. Okay.
Stop copying me and stop borrowing my clothes.
And stop pretending like you don't know me.
Never.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for playing.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you.
Have a
Hey,
good
everyone.
night.
Talk to you later.